Welcome to Channel Unveiling Mysteries. In the shadows of the judicial system, there are incredible stories of underground rulers who, even behind bars, still control a powerful hidden empire. This story is one of them, about a man who used every trick in the book to manage an entire criminal network from within the walls of a prison in a populous country. In Dalian City Prison, Liaoning, there was a man named Zhao Xianwei. He was like an underground emperor in prison, commanding respect and acting brazenly. Not only that, but he could also enjoy home appliances in a luxurious, fully equipped apartment, causing female prison guards to willingly become his lovers and satisfy his physiological needs. Even the director of Dalian City Prison had to give in to this man. The most outrageous thing was that Zhao Xianwei could even alter a death sentence that had already been pronounced. What kind of person was he, and why did he possess such terrifying power? Welcome, dear listeners. I'm back. Please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to receive fascinating videos daily. On October 19, 1992, in the Jinzhou district of Dalian City, Liaoning province, a triad boss named Gao Fuchong was beaten to death with sticks by a group of thugs. This group not only aggressively approached, but also carried hunting rifles, sharp knives, and other dangerous weapons. Besides Gao Fuchong, another man named Chang Fushang was seriously injured at the scene. Chang Fushang was Gao Fuchong's right-hand man in his gang. According to Chang's testimony, the person responsible for the current situation was a man named Zhao Xianwei. This Zhao Xianwei had no small background. He was a notorious gangster in Dalian. In March 1963, Zhao Xianwei was born in the Jinzhou district of Dalian City, Liaoning province. From childhood, he was not a good child. He seemed to be an innate devil. During his school years, he often got into conflicts with his classmates due to his hot temper. This guy solved every problem with his fists, even minor disputes at school. He always thought about how to dominate his classmates. Everyone avoided him. Teachers also had headaches with this young man. Despite calling his parents many times, it was not very effective. This made Zhao Xianwei even more rebellious. He liked the feeling of being feared by everyone. Zhao Xianwei only studied until the 4th grade before dropping out to farm at home. But compared to studying, he couldn't stand the hardships of farming even more. Soon after, Wei became an idler in society, spending his days wandering the streets, occasionally committing petty thefts. But the villagers just turned a blind eye because everyone was afraid of Zhao Xianwei's revenge. Because of this, Wei's rebelliousness increased day by day. Arguing and fighting became commonplace. In March 1979, 16-year-old Zhao Xianwei was arrested and imprisoned for 2 years for stabbing someone. But 2 years in prison did not change him. On the contrary, when he was released, Zhao Xianwei became even more reckless. He found every way to commit crimes. Later, Wei was again sentenced to 2 years in prison by the Dalian City Court for hooliganism. At this time, he was only 20 years old. Perhaps 4 years in prison made the criminal feel some suffering. When Zhao Xianwei was released from prison in 1985, he changed his mindset. He was no longer engrossed in a life of fighting and killing. Instead, he shifted his focus to making money. In that era, there weren't many forms of entertainment. Nightclubs were one of the few places for fun. Zhao Xianwei liked these places very much. He thought this was a good money-making opportunity. After some research, he teamed up with 3 brothers, Yu Zhenglong, Wang Zhengyi, and Zhang Guantou, to open a nightclub called Entering Paradise in the Dalian Economic and Technological Development Zone. Although sales were not very high, It was a stable job. However, the Entering Paradise nightclub was still a place of entertainment where people often came to cause trouble, especially some thugs sent by rivals to sabotage. With his hot temper, Zhao Xianwei could not sit still to protect his business. He decided to develop this aspect. Therefore, he assembled a team of thugs to protect his organization. In just a few years, Zhao Xianwei's gang rose rapidly in the local area. Almost no one dared to speak loudly in front of him. The number of people following Wei increased day by day, and the nightclub became more and more prosperous. Soon, from a small nightclub, he developed a large business empire. However, the underworld is treacherous, and Zhao Xianwei's success made Gao Fuchong jealous. Initially, Gao Fuchong only wanted to teach Zhao Xianwei a lesson, but Wei was not afraid of Chong. He even wanted to use this conflict to elevate his social status and establish prestige in the underworld. Therefore, the confrontation between Zhao Xianwei and Gao Fuchong took place as I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Zhao Xianwei led 7 of his subordinates to clash with Gao Fuchong. In the brawl, Wei lost control of his strength and accidentally beat Chong to death. This action once again put Wei at the gates of hell. Knowing that he had done something terrible, he fled abroad to escape legal punishment. A year later, Zhao Xianwei thought everything had settled down and secretly returned to Dalian. But unexpectedly, immediately after returning to the country, he was discovered and arrested by the police. In April 1995, the Dalian City Intermediate People's Court sentenced Zhao Xianwei to death and deprived him of political rights for life for murder. Faced with this verdict, Wei appealed and began a dramatic life as a swindler to save his life. Zhao Xianwei's remaining subordinates began operating extensively outside, trying to find an opportunity for Wei to escape death. Gradually, they reached out to both the legitimate and underworld circles. Finally, they obtained a crucial piece of information. It was rumored that a prisoner incarcerated with Zhao Wei might be concealing a serious crime. If Wei could provide this information to the police, he might have a chance to have his sentence reduced. His life was full of terrible twists and reckless decisions, sometimes leading to serious consequences. Now we will continue to follow to see whether Zhao Xianwei can use the information he has to trade for freedom, or will ultimately face the severe punishment of the law. Surely his story will not just be a simple tale of crime and punishment, but also a deep exploration of what people can do to survive in a world full of challenges and pitfalls. After extracting and disclosing all the information, the court also commuted Zhao Xianwei's sentence. Wei received important information and, as planned, reported the news to the police. After verifying and confirming the authenticity of this clue, and considering Zhao Xianwei's meritorious act of reporting, the court determined that he had made a significant contribution and decided to impose a lighter sentence, granting a 2-year suspended death sentence. According to the final verdict, Zhao Xianwei would be sent to Liaoning Provincial Prison to serve his sentence. However, because Wei suffered from tuberculosis at that time, he could only temporarily stay at Dalian Prison Hospital. This also made Zhao Xianwei realize that all the connections he had accumulated over the years were concentrated in Dalian. If he were later transferred to a prison in another city, for example, he might genuinely have no chance to maneuver. Therefore, even if he had to go to prison, Wei had to stay in Dalian. Zhao Xianwei once again used his connections and contacted Dalian Prison Deputy Director Yang Fuyu. Yang Fuyu told him that only Prison Director Xie Hongjun had the authority to decide whether he could stay in Dalian Prison to serve his sentence. Immediately after, with Yang Fuyu's guidance, Zhao Xianwei met Xie Hongjun. To secure Xie's help, Wei sent his close associate to negotiate. Zhao Xianwei's associate secretly handed 5,000 RMB in cash to Xie Hongjun and requested that Wei be allowed to transfer prisons. Xie Hongjun, seeing the potential for greater benefits, readily agreed to Wei's request for a transfer and immediately instructed Yang Fuyu to coordinate with relevant departments to process Zhao Xianwei's transfer to Dalian prison. Thus, Wei remained in Dalian prison as he wished. To improve his quality of life while serving his sentence, Wei gifted Xie Hongjun an 80-square-meter luxury apartment, hoping only that Xie could provide him with a comfortable living environment. As arranged by Xie Hongjun, Zhao Xianwei was moved into a 2-bedroom apartment, away from the typical prison cells. The room was equipped with a sofa, color TV, refrigerator, air conditioner, VCD player, and other household items. It even had a telephone that could connect to the outside world. With such conditions, Zhao Xianwei could remotely control his business. His life was not affected by imprisonment. In fact, it became more comfortable. It shouldn't be called imprisonment, but rather becoming a king in prison. To guard against unexpected inspections, Zhao Xianwei's room was also equipped with an internal phone. Whenever a superior came for an inspection, he would immediately return to a regular cell, pretending everything was fair. Thanks to this special treatment, Zhao Xianwei held a high status among the prisoners. All prisoners followed his orders. If anyone displeased him, a mere signal would instantly lead to someone educating the offender. In prison, he also initiated a new type of business: sentence reduction. One only needed to pay to get their sentence reduced. During his years in prison, he helped many inmates with sentence reduction procedures. He and Xie Hongjun earned large sums of money this way. Prisons nationwide were undergoing reforms, starting to experiment with self-sufficiency models. Dalian Prison also established 4 teams for this purpose. Xie Hongjun knew that Zhao Xianwei had extensive business experience, and with his resources and abilities, he could certainly help Xie earn a lot of money. Therefore, Xie appointed Zhao Xianwei as the chairman of the Infrastructure Renovation Committee, taking primary responsibility for Dalian Prison's business operations. Zhao Xianwei's strength was that even in the limited information environment of the prison, with just a phone, he could attract many business contracts. To maintain his relationship with Xie Hongjun, Zhao Xianwei gave him an additional 100,000 RMB in cash. Xie gladly accepted the money and, pounding his chest, declared that if Wei ever needed anything in the future, he should just come to him. But that wasn't the craziest part. During his incarceration, a married female prison guard at Dalian Prison, after witnessing Zhao Xianwei's capabilities, became madly infatuated with him and voluntarily went to bed with him. From then on, Wei had a lover in prison. This female guard often took advantage of her guard duty to secretly enter Zhao Xianwei's room to spend the night. Many guards and prisoners heard the spelling practice sounds emanating from their room. It can be said that Wei was very comfortable in prison, but no matter how good the prison was, Wei was still a prisoner. Realizing that his 2-year suspended death sentence was about to end, Zhao Xianwei asked Xie Hongjun to reduce his sentence. To avoid losing this money printer, Xie Hongjun called Deputy Prison Director Yang Fuyu and the head of the detention area to discuss a plan. Ultimately, they decided to create a fabricated file about Zhao Xianwei's excellent conduct during his incarceration. According to the fabricated records, which highlighted his outstanding achievements, one of the fake documents even stated that on May 5, 1997, Zhao Xianwei led prisoners, without fear of danger, to rescue people during a large fire in the prison workshop, thereby preventing serious damage. In reality, there was a fire in the prison, but Wei merely stood behind the crowd and did nothing. Jie Hongjun instructed someone to submit this fabricated sentence reduction file to the Liaoning Provincial Prison Administration, successfully helping Wei with his case. A month later, Wei's death sentence was successfully commuted to 17 years in prison. Furthermore, thanks to his extensive network of connections and bribery, Zhao Xianwei even gained the freedom to enter and exit the prison. For him, the prison walls were merely an illusion, seemingly no longer a barrier. Before the 1998 Lunar New Year, Zhao Xianwei, to express his gratitude to Jie Hongjun for saving his life, hosted a party at a famous hotel in Dalian City and once again gave Jie Hongjun 200,000 RMB. During his subsequent incarceration, Wei became even more defiant. Free entry and exit from prison became commonplace for him, and during his outings, Wei made no secret of continuing his criminal activities in society. Jie Hongjun, to receive stable bribes from Zhao Xianwei, completely covered up these wicked acts, only requiring Zhao Xianwei to ensure he returned to prison on time. While Wei was enjoying freedom outside the prison, he received a call from Jie Hongjun, who requested more money. Wei immediately agreed and met Ji at a high-end hotel in Dalian, where Wei generously handed over 150,000 RMB in cash to Jie. As always, Ji accepted the money without hesitation. After the Lunar New Year, in response to Zhao Xianwei's gratitude, Jie Hongjun called several prison staff to jointly draft a fabricated document, helping Wei win the title of Provincial Model for Labor Reform. With this title, Zhao Xianwei once again successfully had his sentence reduced, shortening his original 17-year sentence to 15 years. Thanks to money and power, Wei not only completely controlled his network of connections within the prison, but also managed his external organization in an orderly manner. During his outings from prison, Zhao Xianwei quickly reorganized his triad forces and once again caused many troubles in Dalian City, resorting to all sorts of tricks from extortion to coercion. Very quickly, their group became a powerful gang. As his power and assets increased, Zhao Xianwei's mindset also changed. His patience gradually eroded, and he began to crave complete freedom, wanting to return to society without any restrictions to easily lead his gang in major operations. Therefore, he proposed to Jie Hongjun that he be allowed bail for medical treatment outside. After receiving Zhao Xianwei's request, Ji quickly convened his subordinates to discuss, and they finally decided to allow Zhao Xianwei to feign mental illness in order to obtain medical bail outside. In March 1999, Zhao Xianwei began feigning madness and insanity in prison, including beating other prisoners to create chaos, aiming to portray himself as mentally ill. Jie Hongjun and Zhao Xianwei cooperated closely, trying every means to provide evidence that Wei was seriously ill. They found a patient with a brain tumor and replaced this patient's information with Zhao Xianwei's diagnostic records. Therefore, Wei successfully faked a brain tumor diagnosis. The prison bribed staff at a provincial mental health diagnosis center in Liaoning to help Wei obtain a forensic conclusion that he suffered from a mental disorder due to traumatic brain injury and was temporarily unfit to serve his sentence. Zhao Xianwei met the conditions for medical treatment outside prison and finally walked out of prison freely. However, just half a month later, Wei committed another crime. He got into a conflict at a bathhouse in the Dalian development zone and used a hunting rifle, causing a murder and seriously injuring another person. After the incident, Zhao Xianwei realized the situation was worsening, immediately changed his name and identity, and fled to a rural area on the outskirts to hide. In a nationwide crackdown, the public security forces arrested Zhao Xianwei and key members of his gang in March the following year. The Dalian City Intermediate People's Court sentenced Zhao Xianwei to death, and immediately carried out the execution. Perhaps at that time, Wei still hoped someone could help him escape this predicament, but he refused to disclose his accomplices in prison. Under the direction of Zhao Hong, a high-ranking official, investigators transferred Zhao Xianwei from Dalian to Shenyang for trial. This was a place where he had no network of connections. In Shenyang, an unfamiliar territory, Zhao Xianwei was completely isolated. No one could manipulate things for him from behind the scenes. Gradually, his spirits were broken, and finally, under pressure from multiple sides by the investigators, Zhao Xianwei confessed to the corrupt acts of Xie Hongjun, Yang Fuyu, and other judicial personnel. In 2003, Zhao Xianwei was sentenced to death in the first instance trial. But he still did not accept it and appealed after being sentenced. However, all subsequent appeals were rejected by the Liaoning Provincial High People's Court as per legal provisions. 4 months later, Zhao Xianwei was executed. Xie Hongjun and others, for interfering with sentence reductions and allowing prisoners to escape, accepting bribes, and many other charges, were sentenced to between 5 and 15 years in prison. Liaoning Provincial Prison also underwent a major overhaul. Justice may be delayed, but it is never absent. Zhao Xianwei's actions seriously challenged the legal and social order. From a delinquent teenager to a prison boss, his life was full of dramatic twists. His actions not only exposed the corruption of power and the intertwining of evil forces, but also served as a wake-up call for lost souls in the dark. The story of power, corruption, and the collapse of a criminal empire from within prison walls is not only a powerful warning about the consequences of corruption, but also proof that justice, though it may come slowly, will ultimately be established. The lives of those who once ran rampant ultimately become faded pages in legal history, leaving future generations with a profound lesson on the value of fairness and the indispensable nature of a transparent and just legal system. Don't forget to subscribe to the Unveiling Mysteries channel to always receive the latest videos that help you achieve success in life. Thank you for following and accompanying the channel.